Hello, this is Chaplain Shelby. Join me for this week's devotional entitled, The Way of Grace. In recent months, I've struggled with an old nemesis. It's a sin that time and time again gives me trouble. And on too many occasions, I fall into the trap of this adversary and I yield fully to its sin. So what is this sin that so easily besets me, to use Bible vernacular? Well, it's the sin of unforgiveness. It's my Achilles heel, if you will. The adversary uses this one on me because it works. You see, I always do my best to go the extra mile and to give the benefit of the doubt and to show grace in a situation, but there comes a point when the actions of others cross some imaginary line that I've set up in my mind, and then my self-righteousness shows up. Oh, I may say all the right things, but my heart is far from my speech. And I find myself descending down this dark corridor of unforgiveness. The further I go down this corridor, the more carnal I become. It begins to dominate my spiritual thoughts, my thought life. And then I began to experience what David did as he writes in Psalm 32. He said this, starting in verse 3, "When I kept silent about my sin, my bones wasted away through my groaning all day long. Because day and night your hand was heavy upon me. My strength was sapped as in the heat of summer." The writer Paul Tripp wrote, "No matter how broken we find ourselves, no matter how low we have sunk into our sin, no matter how big the mess we have made, God meets us where we are." Now, this is the hope-giving reality of grace. Now, if God asked us to meet him where he is, we would all be in trouble. We'd all be damned. There is no greater example of this than Jesus' response to Peter after Peter's denial. When they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." He said to him, "Then feed my lambs." He said to him a second time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." He said to him, "Then tend my sheep." He said to him a third time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" And Peter was grieved because he had said this to him for the third time, "Do you love me?" And he said to him, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Then feed my sheep." Now, after saying all of this, he said to him, "Peter, follow me." Now, if there is someone whom you would expect Jesus to turn his back on forever, it would be Peter. How could he deny Jesus even after Jesus had warned him? Wasn't that unforgivable? No. What Peter did was not a picture of the defeat of the cross. The opposite is true. Peter's denial is a shockingly concrete picture of the essentiality of the cross of Jesus Christ. The life, death, and resurrection of Jesus were necessary because we are people just like Peter. We have no power in ourselves to be faithful, to be wise or good and righteous. We cannot save ourselves. We are people in need of rescue. Without the rescue of grace, we're in a danger to ourselves and to others, without hope and without God. Now, verse 5 of Psalm 32 gives us this hope. David wrote, "Then I acknowledged my sin to you and did not cover up my wrong. I said, I'll confess my wrong to the Lord, and you forgave the guilt of my sin." So, in amazing, condescending grace, God meets us where we are, just as he did with Peter. He comes to us in our fear. He draws near to us when we're separated. He meets us in our doubt. He pursues us when we wander. When we sin, he comes to us with conviction and forgiveness. He empowers us when we're weak. He restores us when we're unfaithful. And when we deny him, he does not deny us. He comes to us at the moment of our salvation, and he comes to us again and again as we journey from the already to the not yet. He sits down with us, assuring us again of his love, drawing out from us love for him, and sending us on our way to do the work that he's chosen us to do. See, he doesn't wait for us to come to him. He comes to us. It is the way of grace. From the heart, this is Chaplain Shelby.